This video is brought to you by Surfshark VPN, who for years have delivered humanized privacy and security solutions to safeguard your data and privacy online. Virtually travel the world, browse privately by encrypting your internet activity, block ads and malware that get in your way, and much more thanks to their easy-to-use tools. Plus, get an extra 4 months when you sign up using offer code SKILLUP at checkout. More details after the video.
Little Nightmares 3. Gonna keep this one short and sweet because honestly, if you've played the previous Little Nightmares games, you probably know what to expect here, and if you haven't played these games before, well, the less I say about it, the better. Full disclosure, I am one of those people who didn't play the previous 2 games. I've only ever watched playthroughs of them, so if you're looking for a review that talks more in depth about how it stacks up to its predecessors, I'm not your guy. However, the benefit of that is that I'll be reviewing this on its own merits, for the most part divorced from those comparisons, and as someone going in with fresh eyes, playing co-op with a buddy, I had a great time with this. Surprisingly so, actually, since I'm not usually drawn to games that are creepy or mechanically simple, yet I found myself so engrossed by the world of Little Nightmares 3 and was only drawn deeper into it with each passing chapter. Little Nightmares 3 follows 2 kids who have been seemingly shrunken down and whisked away to some nightmare realm. Now, it's notable that this isn't actually made by the original developers of Little Nightmares 1 and 2, as the IP was bought by Embracer Group and handed to Supermassive Games, the studio behind the Until Dawn and Dark Pictures anthology games. Turns out that passing the Little Nightmares torch to a studio who specializes in tense horror experiences works out quite well. Your journey will take you through a number of disturbing environments that are each so carefully lit and framed to make for a persistent sense of unease. You never really know what lurks beyond each corridor, what watches you from the shadowed corners of each room. It's a game that embraces the inherent tension in the unknown and the unseen, much like what I've seen of the previous Little Nightmares games. It's surprisingly absent of jump scares or gore, in fact, and seeing as those 2 things are quite abundant in this studio's previous games, I think that exhibits a level of restraint and deep understanding of the source material. Equally as stirring as the things you can't see is everything you can see. There's a uniquely unsettling and surreal quality to this world, akin to that of Tim Burton's animated films like Coraline and The Nightmare Before Christmas. But behind the grotesqueness of it all is a real sense of purpose and artistry. The details stuffed into every room, the soft lighting guiding you to specific parts of it, all of it accentuated by a foreboding sense of scale. Every part of it is very purposeful. None of it is there to just be creepy for the sake of being creepy. In that way, I couldn't help but admire the visuals at all times and how they evoke such atmosphere, immersion, and perhaps most importantly, imagination. There's no dialogue in Little Nightmares 3, but there doesn't need to be. Save for some sparse cutscenes, the world tells a story all on its own. In every unusual character design, in every morbid vista, in every seemingly innocuous object that foreshadows events or folds into the broader meaning of it all. As one example, early on I was climbing a strange facility and stumbled upon this single lollipop. Odd, I thought. I wonder where this came from. Come to find that lollipops become a very relevant, recurring piece of imagery, for this is in fact a lollipop factory. Later, I find mountains of discarded lollipops, followed by seas of dentures. It dawns on me then that perhaps this all circles back to the hanging dead bodies found in the previous chapter. Is there an allegorical meaning to it all, about the cyclical nature of consumerism, or is it merely some twisted world building, disgusting creatures feasting on candy made of their own flesh, only to one day become candy themselves? Either way, I really enjoyed how much Little Nightmares 3 invites that kind of speculation in its characters and environments, and has you imagine what horrors might exist beyond this small slice you've been subjected to. From what I can gather, that's kind of the main draw of this series, to offer a deeply disturbing, transportive, and thought-provoking journey. I can't speak for the die-hard fans of the previous games, but at least in my view, Supermassive Games have managed to deliver on exactly that, which is no easy feat given this is their first crack at this franchise, and their first game that isn't just an interactive movie. On the gameplay front though, Little Nightmares 3 is pretty simple. One character has a wrench, the other a bow and arrow, and using those two tools alongside the ability to climb and grab things, you'll navigate roughly 5 to 6 hours of light puzzles and unnerving encounters. I use the word light very deliberately. For the most part, puzzles just involve moving a thing to jump on, or some brief platforming to hit a switch, or playing a game of red light, green light as you sneak past some ghoulish creature, or running away from said creature during a very intense chase sequence. Even I can tell that it doesn't offer much new compared to the previous games. The only time that puzzle design really stood out to me was during the final chapter, which involves a clever dual worlds mechanic that beautifully weaves together both the narrative and the gameplay, but I won't spoil that for you here. Little Nightmares 3 is a little sing-song in its structure and can be a tad finicky or unintuitive at times, but broadly, I was on board with the simplicity of the gameplay here. It makes for an easy game for anyone to pick up and play, and allows you to properly soak in the world around you, which really is the star of the show. I also found the lack of overt clues or hand-holding quite refreshing. You're just given the basics at the start, and the game trusts you'll be able to figure out the rest yourself. What I do lament is that Supermassive games didn't more aggressively leverage that co-op angle. The most I ever had to communicate with a friend was in the occasional enemy encounter, like this one, where I can shoot the head off these puppets and my friend would have to run over and smash it while I baited the now shambling body around the room. I suspect one of the reasons the co-op aspect falls short of its potential is because Supermassive have wanted to make this like the previous games, where you could play through entirely solo, in which your buddy is then controlled by AI. And yeah, that works fine, but obviously it does hamstring puzzle design. One thing to note though is that you can't actually start a playthrough in co-op and then switch to single player at any point, or vice versa. These have to be separate save files, and that strikes me as very odd, given how perfectly suited this game is for drop-in and drop-out co-op. Additionally, it's baffling that there's no local co-op. At first, I thought this was by design, opening the door for more unique escape room style situations where each player is in completely separate rooms and have to rely on blind communication to solve problems. But as I've touched on, that isn't the case. The game's challenges are for the most part confined to small vignettes where both players are present on screen, and even in the brief instances where that's not the case, there could have been a smooth transition to split screen, like in the LEGO Skywalker saga, for example. It's a real shame because this is the kind of game I'd love to play on the couch with my girlfriend, or smash out in one sitting with a friend over some beers and pizza. I mean, that is the exact way I've engaged with Supermassive's previous games. Given the co-op aspect is one of the only things that sets Little Nightmares 3 apart from the previous games, and is the definitive way to experience this, it sucks to see such oversights hold it back from being more widely accessible. The one saving grace is that if you do have a friend to play online with, you only need to fork out the cash for one copy, as you can invite a friend to play for free via their friend pass system, similar to Hazelight's games. And that's great, since $40 does feel kinda steep for a game this short and this simple, but splitting that price tag down the middle does make it much easier to stomach. Look, I think people are going to look at Little Nightmares 3's fair open critic rating, call it mid, and pass on it. And that's fair enough, given the number of phenomenal games we've had over the last year. Lord knows my backlog is sky high. However, if you are looking for a creepy co-op adventure with a buddy, I think this is a worthwhile pickup. I mean, it is Halloween season after all. Notably, the co-op puzzle platformer genre is pretty underserved. Like, outside of Hazelight's games and the occasional Mario entry, there aren't many games like this. So any decent games that fill that void is welcome, and I'd love to see Supermassive continue playing in this space with future entries. I'd also like to see them be a little more inventive on the gameplay front, because yeah, they've definitely played things rather safe in that regard. I suspect out of fear that pushing things too far might have had existing fans decrying that it's too far removed from its predecessors. And also there's the fact that gameplay isn't exactly the studio's forte, given the story-focused nature of their previous games. While that does make them a very fitting studio to carry on the legacy of a horror-adjacent franchise, there was definitely an opportunity here to reach a little higher, to give Little Nightmares 3 more of its own identity. As someone's first entry into the franchise, I found its simple, unguided gameplay quite enjoyable to stumble through with a friend, but for those who have played the previous two, I suspect it'll feel like more of an imitation of what came before, rather than the iterative sequel you've been waiting for. Either way, I think that's all kind of secondary to what really made this game so alluring, and I imagine what's garnered this franchise such a cult following: its brilliantly crafted world. A world so strikingly bleak and grotesque that you can't look away. A world so strange that you can't help but scrutinize all the details and theorize on its hidden meanings. A world so atmospheric and immersive that you too will feel as if you've been swept away into this haunting little nightmare for a time. That was basically all that I was hoping Little Nightmares 3 would deliver, and it did. For that reason, I recommend it to you.
For years now, I've been using this video sponsor, Surfshark VPN, and honestly, it comes in clutch pretty often. I mean, we all know about content geo-blocking, where certain TV shows, films, and games are inaccessible to you based on where you are. Surfshark lets you sidestep many of those restrictions with a click of a button, virtually teleporting you all over the world so you can watch or play whatever you please. But there's also the online shopping angle too. I mean, regional pricing is a thing, and depending on what you're buying and where it's being shipped to, certain online retailers won't let you make purchases depending on where you're located. Again, Surfshark lets you quickly and easily get around many of those restrictions so you can buy what you like and get a good deal while doing it. Of course, there's also the security angle. Surfshark encrypts your data, making it safer to browse the web, and their dedicated antivirus or alert tools take security to a whole new level, protecting you from viruses or malware and notifying you if a large-scale hack occurs that may leave your data exposed. It's super convenient since Surfshark can be used on a range of devices from PCs to phones to tablets and more, and their intuitive user interface makes it so easy to use. Sometimes it's as little as one click and you're away. I love it. I would never not have it installed on all my devices, and if you want to check it out for yourself, you can visit surfshark.com/skillup, and if you use offer code SKILLUP at checkout, you'll get an extra 4 months when you sign up. A great deal for a great product. That's surfshark.com/skillup. Offer code SKILLUP at checkout for an extra 4 months. Thanks Surfshark for sponsoring the video, and thank you for watching it.